right. I call this general meeting of the Lancaster County Democratic Party to disorder. And I'd like to thank you all for being here tonight. I am going to be so happy after we get through the 6th or 7th wave of Corona and we can actually start meeting again in person. But it's still pleasant to see your faces. Thank God for Zoom, or we would all be feeling extremely isolated. So anyway, we will start with, the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, and we keep trying, for liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right. I'm looking to see if we have any guests tonight. Don't see any new faces except for our guest speaker. So I will ask Katie to introduce our guest speaker.
My husband was sneezing. Hi, everyone. So in October, the Women's March held marches all over the country. And I went to the one in Columbia, and it was fantastic. It was so encouraging to see so many people marching. But it was also really encouraging to see everyone's reaction to the march. Like, we were getting applauded and recorded, and just really positive reactions from everyone in downtown Columbia. It was awesome. And then after we marched, we went to the Martin Luther King Park, and we heard from a lot of really fantastic speakers. One of whom was Allison, who's here with us tonight. And she is from Planned Parenthood, and she has a lot of fantastic information on what's going on and how we can help. So thank you, Allison. We're really excited to have you.
Thank you, and apologies, I'm driving. There was a vigil tonight for the January 6th remembrance, so I'm actually on my way home from that right now. But you know, just trying to navigate things in the real world and things in the virtual world. Yeah, so thank you so much for that very kind introduction. And my name's Allison Terratio. I started out as a volunteer for Planned Parenthood in 2017. So I started out with a Women's March experience. And a lot of people were very skeptical about what would happen after that march. Were we all just going to go home and, you know, go back to brunch and go back to all of the things that we had been doing when we were taking democracy and rule of law for granted? You know, so many times during that year, excuse me, I'm getting caught. Excuse me, choked up. I think that did it. So we took a lot for granted. And one of the things that I did, I was new to South Carolina, and I saw that we had a Planned Parenthood here, and that, excuse me, the Planned Parenthood here needed patient greeters. And I think a lot of times when people conjure up an image of an abortion provider, they naturally think of the protesters outside, and they have images in their heads of people putting their arms around a patient to guide them in safely. And while we don't physically necessarily have to do that at this point in time, the protesters and protest activity never really goes away. And they really, those folks do everything in their power to try to deter, delay, turn around people from coming to Planned Parenthood. And that's both for abortion services and also for all of our other services. They just don't want anybody to have anything to do with us. So that's how I got started. And then in 2018, I ran for local office. So I'm actually a county council member here in Richland County. And then in 2019, this position came open for Planned Parenthood. And so I just thought it was really important for me to be on the ground doing this work. And so as an organizer, I do both of, I do a lot of the just everyday volunteer activities like patient greeting. I do the training for that. I do the, kind of all the background checks and all of that stuff for people, because obviously we want to make sure that the people who are showing up to interact with our patients are people who are not going to be against our mission. And then we do electoral work. So I worked really hard on the 2020 campaign. I can't believe we're already it feels like 2021 in a certain way didn't even happen. And of course, with that 2020 election, even though we have the White House, the House of Representatives, and just barely at the Senate, so many of our local elections went poorly. So much so that in 2021, when legislative session began in January last year, the first thing that our state Senate did was to take up Senate Bill 1. And if you're not familiar with Senate Bill 1, it is the bill that was called the heartbeat bill. And we typically just refer to it as the 6-week ban, because basically what it is that it's a bill that would ban abortion before most people know that they're pregnant, which is essentially a ban on abortion. They got that through in record time. And so what happened, thankfully, is that laws like that, because they are unconstitutional due to Roe, they get struck down almost immediately, which is what happened here in South Carolina. There are probably some people who thought, okay, abortion is illegal in South Carolina, but it is not. We have been able to safely provide abortion services the whole time. I think less than 24 hours of disruption were had during that period of time. So that kind of brings us to what happened in Texas in 2021. Texas passed a bill, and it was also a 6-week ban. However, they figured out this very clever way to get around Roe. And Roe says basically a state may not make a law that prevents people from accessing an abortion before viability. Well, they didn't sort of take into account that this new scheme that we're calling the vigilante scheme, where individual citizens are essentially deputized to snitch on each other, to uphold the law themselves. That law, we assumed that would sort of not take place, kind of like all the other ones would. But lo and behold, in September, that law went into effect. And so Texas, since September 1st, has had almost no legal abortion. And because the Supreme Court has refused to strike it down, and they seem to be poised to, they've heard arguments in the Mississippi case. And just if you're not familiar with that one, the Mississippi case is the one that bans abortions after 15 weeks. So that's not viability. It's just sort of a random time period, but they're using it to challenge Roe directly. So we may see a situation at hand in which states might ban abortion and also have these sort of vigilante laws where anyone who aids and abets, if you help someone get across a state line, then you could be sued. At the same time, we may also have a complete overturn or gutting of Roe, which would mean that your access to abortion health care is only as good as the current governor and state legislature that you have at that time. So things in tricky states, things might flop back and forth. In some states, things might stay more or less the same, and those states become sort of destination states, kind of like in the years before Roe. Locally, so the state of abortion in South Carolina is that we have 3 providers. 2 of those are Planned Parenthood, and 1 is an independent provider in Greenville. And so betwixt and between us, we mostly get, we provide abortion care a couple of days a week at each health center. And then of course, some people who might be closer to Charlotte can just drive it up to Charlotte, and they have choices. There's independent providers and a Planned Parenthood that provide abortion services there. I actually am employed by Planned Parenthood South Atlantic, and it's an affiliates kind of system. So our affiliate covers North and South Carolina, West Virginia, and part of Virginia. And so our affiliate is preparing for essentially what is probably likely to happen, which is that South Carolina either takes up one of these Texas style bans, or Roe is not upheld, and South Carolina may ban abortion altogether. So what we're preparing to do is to help people get across state lines. We look at North Carolina because they are relatively safe in terms of their political situation right now. So we will see Charlotte, Asheville, other cities in North Carolina become what we're calling surge states, where people will need help getting there. They'll need help staying overnight there, and they'll need help, with childcare and things like that, because about 60, I think the number is like 61% of people who need an abortion are already parents. So we know that these are folks who need, who are going to need extra help. And there are abortion funds. If you've never donated to an abortion fund, I would highly recommend. There's one that's called the Carolina Abortion Fund, and that's pretty easy to remember. And they give direct help to people who need, transportation money, hotel money, babysitting money, all of those kinds of things. So I've just been kind of running my mouth for a minute. I'm going to pause and just ask, are there any questions so far?
Not a question, but thank you for what you're doing.
Well, thank you so much. It is, really challenging work. One of the reasons that I became so passionate about the patient greeting program is that you really see what it's like on the ground for people to try to access their health care, and for people to be, essentially harassing them while, can you imagine if you were going to, this is how I always say it, can you imagine if you were going to your dentist office and someone was standing outside your dentist office with a big picture of gingivitis blown up or something like that, and shaming you for not flossing or whatever, and trying to get you to turn around because, if only, you could put some leeches on your body, maybe that would cure your toothache or whatever. So that's the kind of stuff that we're really dealing with, in terms of, of people just, accessing their health care here in our states. So yeah, does anybody have any questions about like, I think one of the things that I wanted to share tonight also is just how to take action. You're in Lancaster. I mourn the loss of I know she's not gone, but I mourn the loss of Mandy at the State House. And, she's one of the ones that I think was one of the saddest losses in the 2020 cycle. So I don't know, is she here tonight? Did she come to these?
No, she's not here
Okay.
tonight.
Okay.
But, I'm working on her. I'm working on her.
So I'm very much enjoying getting to see her travels, but I also would miss having her at the State House. So yeah, hi, I'm here at my house now. And yeah, so what we usually, before COVID, in the world before, a lot of our activism was around getting people together, throwing big rallies, raising our voices, and really seeing each other, seeing people eye to eye. And I think one of the things, especially that was special, that was nice about that October event here in Columbia, is that you are in a space where you're not the only one. Because abortion access is popular. Well over 70% want to see people have some kind of access to abortion. Now, lots have different thoughts about what that should look like, but nobody wants to put women, pregnant people in a situation where you're going to put yourself at risk, you're going to put your family at risk, you're going to put your health at risk. I don't think anybody wants to go back to those days. So, what we continue to want to do, to need to do, is to show our faces and say, hi, I'm a person, I'm your neighbor, and I care about abortion access because, I was once a teenage girl in chemistry class, worried that I might be pregnant. Everybody has a reason why they support access to abortion. And it can be just as simple as that, to make that connection with someone based on, what you care about. I care about that teenage girl sitting in chemistry class, and I think we all can find a way to share in a way that makes a personal connection with others. So I think that's another part of what I wanted to kind of bring up tonight with you all, to say everybody has a story, and that little snippet of story can make all the difference to someone, because it gets them thinking about why they think the way that they do. Yeah. And so, when we call our elected representatives, when we write to them, when we submit testimony to the State House, those are all super important, because they are, the public face. I just came from this January 6th vigil. And one of the things that was brought up was around, showing up for local democracy and seeing the faces of the people who are around you. That's why I think these kinds of meetings are so important for you all to have amongst neighbors, because you're seeing each other face to face, and you're able to talk about policy, talk about the things you care about, and then take that out into the rest of your community together. So, yeah, so hopefully we will, have some big rally days in Columbia ahead. Yes, we need to be notified when there are hearings. So now will be my pitch for, I'm gonna, when I go off video, I'm gonna put in the chat a link for you to sign up to be a Planned Parenthood supporter. And then that way, when we start to go out to, to tell our supporters, hey, there's this bill, it's a really bad one, you need to call and let them know, you'll get that. I just pulled a list of people to phone bank for a bill that's called S811. And that is a bill that would allow medical providers to discriminate against anyone based on their religious beliefs. So, if I'm your dentist and you show up and, I don't like how you're living your life, I can just refuse to treat you. So that is the kind of stuff that we're seeing now. And Lynn Teague from the League of Women Voters, who was just, 100% of the time amazing. I've never seen her, she leaned over tonight and she said, I'm not feeling very articulate. And yet there she was talking about, about these bills and how these are not bills that are set up to improve the lives of South Carolinians. They are bills that are set up to make people scared and angry.
Red meat.
Red meat, exactly. And so the more afraid you are of, someone else's religion or someone else's skin color or how someone else conducts their life, then you might be excited about this bill. And of course, on our side too, we have to be afraid of it because guess what? They're not bluffing. They're going to pass, they will pass it. And our best hope is just to make a lot of noise and get a lot of attention on it and show people that the people that they've elected and our local representatives, I represent about 37,000 people, and a state house member represents a similar number of people. These are people that we can know, and they should feel the pressure of us calling and texting and writing to them. With gerrymandering, though, that is not, that's typically, that's more challenging to get people to actually pay attention to you. So, we have to show our friends and neighbors that nice guy down the road who, we see in his farm truck is going to Columbia and voting for these bills that would allow people to discriminate.
Well, except for the farm truck, you've definitely described Brandon Newton, who supposedly represents us in this area. He's off to the right of most of the Republicans in this state, and that is a scary thing. But I'm sure he shows up at the local establishments and glad hands and looks normal, and so the nice people who elect him probably don't think he would really be one of those guys, but that's probably more the case than not. Yeah. 2 years ago, when it looked like he was going to be unchallenged, I started researching his voting record. And up to that point, I'd had some personal social contact with him, thought he was a nice, young, polite man. His voting records, oh my God.
Yeah.
My interest in this particular issue goes back about a half a century when a young friend of mine who happened to be female asked me if I would drive her to take care of a problem. That was kind of scary for both of us. I do not want to see us going back to that.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have those kinds of memories. And of course I don't, that was not my time, but I did have my own personal experience. And I've definitely had friends, most of us over 30, We often think of this as something that affects, really young people, but there are plenty of people who need abortions in their 30s and even 40s. So yeah, we need access, and we don't need to feel like we're blindfolded. One woman was telling me her story, and she said that she had been blindfolded so that she could not tell, if she was caught, right, that she could not tell people where she had been taken.
Mhm. Mhm. Well, I think it's a telling statistic that you threw out. About 61%
Mhm.
of the women seeking an abortion are already parents.
Mhm.
So there's
Yeah.
health reasons, there's financial reasons,
Mhm.
and a lot of valid reasons for them to need
Yeah.
to do this.
Yeah.
And I certainly know plenty of horror stories from women about failed birth control.
Mhm. Yeah, a lot of people, will say, well, why don't you just use birth control? Well, people do. And also, you miss a pill, you don't get to the pharmacy in time. People's IUDs, it's not 100%. So
Or plant.
Mhm. That's right. Yeah. Any other questions or comments or anything?
I have a question. The Texas law provides a bounty
Mhm.
for people who, for want of a better word, snitch on their neighbor. Do you think such a law could become possible in South Carolina?
Yes. 100% I do.
Then some of the things you're talking about in terms of getting people into North Carolina
Mhm.
essentially would expose the people who are helping them to these kinds of actions.
That's right.
That's a very realistic assessment.
Yeah. People need to understand just how serious that could be. As I understand it, there's a bounty of $10,000 involved.
Uh-huh.
I don't think you can get insurance for that.
Nope.
Yeah. No, and the it can all pile up because it's any party, and it's not like, it doesn't have to be a family member or a friend or a neighbor. It could just literally be anyone who finds out.
Yep.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
With
Okay.
Planned Parenthood,
Mhm.
is there been any speculation how the good governor of California turning this one around
We
might
have,
make them back off a little bit?
I don't know. We have not really had a lot other than the big sort of like brouhaha when he made that announcement. Other than that, I haven't heard anything new. I get, kind of a news digest every day. And so I haven't heard any new news on that. But I'll keep my ear to the ground and see, for the most part, we are just all preparing for every state legislative session, from here to Arizona. Our colleagues across the United States are bracing and preparing for, what's to come. Mm-hmm. That's right.
Allison,
Mhm.
this is William St. Louis. My camera's not working, but anyway, this may sound a little convoluted, but in my own opinion, the best thing that could happen to this movement is for Roe v. Wade to be overturned by the Supreme Court. My reasoning is, if that happens, based on what I've read, I think support for abortion nationwide runs about 75, 80%.
That's correct. Mhm.
If that happens, you would see a big turnout this coming November,
Mhm.
which would save the House for us, build up our representatives in the number of senators we have, so we have a fairly close majority.
Mhm.
then be able to codify this law via the Congress
Mhm.
and maybe rid this problem altogether. I mean, I you know, calling our representatives here in the state is just like, I might as well, send it to the wall here in front of me. I mean, you're not going to get anything positive out of any of these representatives within
That's
the state. So it's just a statement and just, a simple opinion. I know it would probably be tough for some people in some states for a short period of time, but
Mhm.
I see that as a very good possibility.
Yeah. So a couple of things. I mean, I've heard others, have that kind of analysis of, well, we've had for 20 years in the state of South Carolina, we have always had some kind of an abortion ban proposed. It might be, what they would call a method ban, which would ban a certain method of abortion. It might be a gestational period, bill. We've had to fight back on what's called personhood, which means that a fertilized egg has the same full set of rights that you and I do, and probably even more so if you think about it. So for every year, and it's sort of like crying wolf, we have to fight this back. We have to fight this back. Oh, how terrible. Here we go. What will happen, and my colleague Vicki Ringer is our lobbyist for Planned Parenthood here in South Carolina, and one of the things that she and I have talked about is, what happens when the dog catches the car, right? They have been using this issue to raise money, to get themselves elected and reelected, to get more and more of a majority. And what happens when this policy actually comes into effect? And let me tell you, the people who come to Planned Parenthood, you might be surprised to know that they are not all Democrats. These are people from all walks of life. They show up in every kind of vehicle. They show up with many different kinds of bumper stickers. I've had guys stand out in the parking lot with me and tell me who they had voted for recently. We don't talk politics. We're not allowed to talk politics in the parking lot, but if a person shares, they can share. And he said how much he had regretted supporting the person that he supported because he didn't realize what they were doing, with abortion care, right? So I think that you are probably very right in that a lot of people will really wake up. They will start to feel the negative impact of this policy, of these bills, and they may do something about it.
I hate to put a pin in everybody's bubble, but you have to understand that the Republican Party is now a coalition of the disaffected, each segment supporting the other. In other words, the pro-gun rights will support the abortion banners. Anti-vaxxers are in there as well. And so, yeah, individuals may not like a portion of the policy that the Republican Party pushes, but there is a portion of the policy, their policies that they want. And it's that approach, creating as I said, a coalition of the disaffected, which will create a majority for them. And so we need to understand that. So Bill, yes, William, yes, you're right. It probably will impact a lot of people. However, I doubt that will change their voting schedule, their voting habits very much.
Well,
That's
I
very
disagree.
much the problem with the single issue voters.
Mhm.
They focus on this one thing out of 100 and let the rest of the country go to hell.
That's exactly the point.
I disagree. I think the reason that Biden won, I don't think it was any one particular issue other than the fact that people wanted to get rid of Trump. Now and I think there was a lot of one issue voting, and the issue was Donald Trump. He's
Sometimes works to our advantage.
But
Yeah,
you can't, tell me you don't think that's going to get overturned. Right now, I believe it's going to be.
The way that court is.
How do you, I mean, that's the
No,
thing about being in the state of like South Carolina. You can send all the letters, you can protest, you can stand outside their door, but it's not going to change in South Carolina. We're just too damn backward.
Yeah. No, I absolutely think that the Supreme Court is going to do some serious damage if completely overturn Roe. I hate to say that, but I don't think we should be naive about it. You know, I don't know if anybody listened to the Mississippi ban hearings at Supreme Court, but essentially Amy Coney Barrett had this question about, well, you know, now we have these safe haven laws where if a baby is born and the parent cannot care for the child, it can get dropped off at a safe space like a hospital or a church or, you know, a fire station. And so she seemed to think that that solved the problem of needing abortions, that you could just drop
the baby off.
just drop it off on a door, you know, like
That's their whole
Nope.
mindset.
I'll
So
tell you,
that-
the only solution that we have, and it requires to have a president with a backbone, is really very simple. Question, what was the number of justices on the Supreme Court when it was formed? And the answer is 3. There are now 9. They have been added over time. If the
And it's
president
been
had a
more than that.
backbone, we'd add
It's been
4
over
more
9.
judges. That is legal,
Mhm.
all right? And it's in his authority that that can be done. So.
Yeah.
That's the only solution I can see.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think another solution is just mandatory vasectomies.
Yeah, yeah. I'd vote against that, trust me.
Hey, but it's reversible now. It wasn't when I got one, but it's reversible now.
My opinion is if men were pregnant, this wouldn't be a question.
Oh my God.
And,
no.
and
Absolutely.
the problem is, why do they allow the sale of Viagra?
And
pay for it.
subsidize it.
Ladies,
Well-
just keep your nose out of my business, all right? You're absolutely right. The hypocrisy exists.
Mhm.
The slogan, "My body, my choice," is used by 2 groups.
Mhm.
One is anti-abortion and the other is anti-vax.
Yeah.
Just be aware that hypocrisy exists within the party.
Mhm.
Well, Allison, what other constructive ways can we help here in South Carolina?
Mhm. It, you know, great question. One of the things we're going to be trying to do in the coming months is what we're calling deep canvassing. And so as Democrats, you all have probably been out canvassing to say, hi, I'm your neighbor. You know, do you know there's an election coming up? Have you made up your mind who you're voting for? We've probably all done that kind of canvassing. It's, you know, 2 minutes max you know, when you're talking to that person. What we're doing for deep canvassing is we are having these longer conversations with people where we talk to them and we say, hey, on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being anybody can have an abortion for any reason and 0 meaning nobody can ever have one for any reason, where are you? And I think a lot of people are like 5, 6, 7, you know, like we're in some kind of like range. And so we get to talking to people and we start sharing these stories about like your story of, you know, driving your friend, you know, and that makes the other person think about, oh, well, you know, I had this experience once too. And you connect on a shared value. And then once you have that shared value, you kind of reassess and you say, so now that we've been talking for a little while, you know, would you, you know, on the same scale of 1 to 10, you know, where is your number now? You know, and a lot of people tend to move a little bit more towards access because they've really thought through a scenario.
Mhm.
And so I think that's, if people are interested in that kind of skill set where you can, talk to your neighbors, I think that in the beginning of the Trump years, one of the pieces of advice that got circulated was like, find your people, get active, get involved. And those people that are posting this other stuff that you don't like, just go ahead and like unfriend them or block them or remove them. But I think that's probably not been a great bit of advice. I think that learning how, like practicing talking with people, practicing sharing stories and finding stories that resonate. Yes, and listening. And people, what I also always tell my son, who's turning 13 this year, is like, you really can't ever change anyone's mind. All you can ever do is give them the space to change their own mind.
Good mom.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Well, actually, what you're saying is the key to canvassing and connecting with people on so many of our issues, not just abortion access, choice. This really touches at a core thing that we're going to have to try to do, and which we've had been so handicapped because of COVID.
Yes. And I think that we kind of like unilaterally disarmed a little bit in terms of not doing in-person things, whereas the other folks did do that. And they put a lot of people at risk. And I'm sure there's a lot of harm done with that. And
So it might improve our odds next November.
I mean, who knows?
I consider it Darwinian in nature.
Yeah.
The survival of the smartest. So
Yes.
Darwin.
Darwinian.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, so we've touched on a couple things here. We can make contributions. If you have a link, could you post it?
Yeah. So I'm going to take myself off video and I'm going to post the link.
Okay.
I've just got to pull it up real quick.
Yeah. You're better with your phone than I am.
It's a necessary skill that I had to learn really fast.
And please give Vicky my best regards the next time you talk to her.
Okay, here we go. This is the link. Yeah, Vicky is amazing. And the first time I ever heard her speak, I said, I want to work for her. And while I don't work for her, I get to work with her all the time. So I just put in a link, the link in the chat. We are Planned Parenthood Action. And that puts you joining that list will make sure that you will get the text, the email, the phone call saying, hey, now's the time we need you to show up.
We'll get that on our website.
Yeah. Great.
And
any questions or anything for me? What's that? And any other questions or anything for me?
I congratulate you on your good work and hope you continue regardless of the discouragements our government throws at you. Keep up the good work.
Thank you. I have good people working with me. It's always, when I see the patients show up and I see the other volunteers who are there, and they are just incredibly devoted and dedicated to helping people have the best experience possible. That's really what keeps me going.
Well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank
very
you all.
much.
Thanks for hosting me, and thanks for what you're doing.
Okay.
All right. I'll see you later. Bye.
Bye.
Oh, all right. Let's see. You've had the opportunity I've posted the link for the minutes. William, a quick treasurer's report.
Okay, started out the month of December with 3,573 and 40 cents. We had deposits of 206.47. Check $120 for utilities for the months of October, November, December. Other debits were $24.46 for our phone and Squarespace. That leaves us a balance at the end of January, end of December, 1st of January of $3,635.41. And I'm sure we probably have a couple of checks to deposit. So
Yes, I have at least one downstairs and I haven't checked the mailbox.
okay, and I will be working on a budget for this coming year.
Thank
Should
you
have
very
that by the executive meeting.
Okay, that'd be great. That'd be great. And I know you and Nora will connect about a possible transition handover.
Yes, we've already exchanged emails and phone numbers.
Excellent, excellent. Okay. Carrie,
Yo,
anything? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
nope, there is a rush to complete the caucus bylaws by the end of this month. I'm starting to get a couple for review, including some that I'm not really responsible for. We already have, I just received the Black Caucus bylaws. And I actually, I'm cheating. I wrote the Senior Affairs Caucus bylaws that I'm supposed to then review. But let's not go down that route. Other than that, there's I mean, you were at the holiday party with Alan. The death of, what's his face? Carol's husband, Don Fowler, kind of threw everything for a loop for a while. There was an executive meeting held towards the end of December, which was an example of how not to run a party. And I'll give you the story because it's well worth understanding.
I noticed a lot of people laughing right now.
Yeah, this was a county party. I think it was Florence County. I can't swear to it. That has had a leadership fight going on for 3 years. 3 years. To the point where we received a letter from the mayor of Florence complaining that she was not getting any support on re-election of Democrats because people were fighting with each other.
Oh, no. Oh,
Yeah,
no.
the mayor is a Democrat. So Trav, I guess in desperation, called an executive board meeting. And it turns out by state law, the executive board, when meeting on issues related to governance and organization within the party, act as a court. We literally are a court.
That's what I've
And
heard.
so you've heard that, I hope. Yeah. And so we had both sides present. And basically it was one of the stupidest, and I sat in as a juror in certain cases. It was the dumbest thing I've heard in a long time. It was actually one group that wanted to take over and another group which had the authority and the power did not understand what the first group wanted. There really was no resolution which was possible other than the fact that this is a year in which there has to be re-elections for that particular county. And we said, just let the voters decide. But the point being is that this was two groups which did not understand each other's requirements and needs. And it was very obvious that one group was of a higher economic level than the group than the other group, and they weren't talking. So one of the things I hope we can continue to reflect is that Lancaster County is a bifurcated county. We have tremendous differences in both social and economic demographics, and we all need to listen to each other. I hate to see anything like that happen here. That's it.
All right, thank you. And especially thank you for the word to the wise. Yeah, I think we've got enough good people that we can dodge that bullet.
Hmm.
Okay, well, I don't want us to get too far in on a general meeting, except that we do have a lot of action teams that need volunteers. Do we have any current requests right now, especially like Lee? Okay. Yeah. Caucus.
Sorry, I'm here.
Okay. I didn't know if you just didn't have a request at this time for volunteers or whatever.
Well, I don't have a request at this time other than to talk about our next quarterly membership. What was that we had? Welcome session. And although I haven't seen many new members, but there were a few new members that didn't attend our last membership meeting, so maybe we can pull them in. Nor have I gotten responses from the folks who attended the last membership meeting as to what action teams they'd like to join. So I will loop back to them, but we can talk about a date for the next meeting, maybe in February.
Certainly, and you and I need to discuss, Katie, discuss some planning for the precinct organization.
Okay.
Okay. I'll give a quick status on our strategic planning. It is coming along very, very well. We have a little hiatus over the holidays, but we're making great progress, and we expect to present a coherent, measurable strategic plan to the executive committee this month. And going over that, and then making a presentation on that when we get to our county convention in March, mid-March. All right. We're going to be ramping up the Register 46 canvassing. And one thing that Josh shared with me was the idea of tying that in with precinct organizing and getting people, connecting with people and getting them excited about precinct reorg on the first Saturday in March. And that's where we will be electing the people that will represent each precinct to the county convention, and we'll vote on the new county officers and any kind of policies or bylaws, whatever that we have on the agenda.
Keith, do we have a mobilize link for the next Register 46?
Not yet.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm pushing Josh to do something very regular, routine, like second and fourth Thursdays or Saturdays or something like that, where we can get people to kind of pencil that in on their calendars. But he's been very involved with a number of local elections that we've had in this last year, though not here, but that have been going on in other parts of the state that were important for city councils and county councils. Okay. New business. Well, I just touched on that. The state has set Saturday, March 5th for our precinct organizational meetings. And right now it's looking like we will do, well, let me back up. I've asked the state for us to be able to do these on Zoom because of this current spike we're having with Omicron. And what we would, and I've become more knowledgeable on using Zoom where we can have the breakout rooms for each precinct. Now, we will still stagger the sets of meetings for the different parts of the county. And I had a discussion with Kathy Baker earlier today in which we'll probably combine the south part of this county with the center part of the county, those precincts. Probably do that like 1 o'clock on Saturday afternoon. And then later in the afternoon, we would do the Indian land, which Katie will be pretty much riding herd on, but I want to be able to participate in that. Okay. But we'll be getting a lot more information out. We're going to be calling people. We're going to be emailing people. We'll be sending postcards to people to pump up participation in that. It's important that we try to get as many precincts organized and then have those representatives present at the county convention. Okay, we've got the MLK parade will be on Saturday, January 15th at 3 p.m. And I will be driving my pickup truck. Alan will be driving his Tesla. The Lancaster County Women's Conference will be a separate entry, but we're going to try to be positioned in the same place. And Katie has set up a mobilize for signing up for that event. Do you need to put it? I knew you'd have that ready.
It's in the chat.
There it is in the chat. Sign up for the MLK parade. Now I don't have a trailer at this point, but because my friend sold his, so we'll see how it goes with how many people sign up to do this, and I'll acquire a trailer if we need one for additional people.
Well, I'll be able to handle 3 passengers, I think, in the
Now,
car.
Of course, this is, I'm going to make it explicit. Please don't show up unless you've had all your shots, your boosters, and you're feeling okay.
And we've agreed that we're not going to the indoor event afterwards, right?
Well, that's everyone's personal call, but when even
True.
Reverend Murray says he's not going to be there, no, I don't think so.
Following my experience, you're not going to get me inside with a lot of people in any case.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. But if it's not too cold today, you might consider being in the back of my pickup.
only if you start a fire right there.
Make the call when you feel comfortable with it.
Start a
We'll
fire.
have our vehicles in there, and you know where I live. Okay. Now we've got a meet and greet this week, or not this week, but next week on Wednesday. Angela Jeter will make the same loop that we've had. She's running for the Senate against Tim Rice.
Didn't we see her one other time?
She participated in a Zoom meeting with us a number of months ago.
Yeah. She was the one who believes in a balanced budget.
She's very impressive. I can tell you that right now.
She's
Very
running
impressive.
against Crystal Matthews, right?
Yeah. The problem I had with her was when you hear a Democrat talk about a balanced budget, it's somebody who really doesn't understand government.
No.
So maybe she's gotten
we're
a little more
actually together on this one.
Yeah, we are.
Well, that's a generalization there.
Yes, it is. And as somebody who's been in government and seen government work, the answer is it's a generalization that seems to have the exception is not the rule, is that you get a balanced budget. That's always nice. The last time we had one was under Clinton.
When we had a good U.S. congressman here in this part of the state.
Yeah.
Spratt.
You know, it depends on what your income and what your outgo is, William.
Yep.
And unless you have that balance, you never have a balanced budget.
Understand, I've got an accounting degree.
I know you do.
Okay, so it'll be the usual routine. She'll be doing an event in Chester around noon. We'll be meeting at Punky's on Main at 4, and then she'll be up there in Sun City at 7.
What's the date, Keith?
Next Wednesday on the 12th.
Okay, thank you.
I've got to send out some emails on that to specific groups. Got a lot of space up in Indian Land, but we're limited to about 30 people in the meeting room at Punky's, so I appreciate RSVPs. Though actually, unfortunately, we haven't hit max capacity there yet.
So today's announcement doesn't have anything about doing a RSVP.
Well, I generally send out a separate invite on that one as well. But I probably didn't communicate with Katie about that.
Keith, I'm just looking at the announcement I received from the Sun City Democrats. I don't know how much room they're going to have. It says it will be in ballroom B.
Oh.
Last time we had Harrison, we had A, B, and C, which was, we had an overflow to what, 250 people? If it's just B, yeah, you were there. B would probably hold 75 to 80 people, not much more than that.
See, I'm not really familiar how much those break up. That's why.
Yeah, B would be 1/3 of what we had.
Mm-hmm.
We had A, B, and C.
Yeah.
So I don't know what they're planning.
Okay, well, we'll see how that works out. Now, next month, we will be having Gary Voter, who's the 3rd and final Democrat who is running for governor. And that'll also be on the 2nd Wednesday of the month. And we'll send out more information on that. Okay. Announcements.
Do you want me to post the link for the webinar this Saturday?
Yes, please, Alan, do.
Keith, I have an announcement.
I figured, please.
Okay.
Well, good
Proceed.
evening. Good evening, everyone. Just an update on the Democratic Women's Council. In December, we had a very celebratory meeting celebrating all the members and officers who've been involved since we organized January 2020 and our accomplishments. We also elected new officers for the next couple of years. And our new president is Christian Garcia. So we're looking forward to an exciting year. And we continue to meet the third Thursday at 6:30 by Zoom.
Okay, thank you very much, Verda.
Keith.
The next executive committee meeting will be Tuesday, January 18th. And I'll be sending out an agenda on that well in advance of the meeting. And that's also when we'll present the strategic plan.
Keith, I'd recommend that anybody that didn't hear Biden's speech this morning, see if they could go out on the internet and find it. It was very strong.
Yes.
Tied it into voting rights. And it's about time some Democrats stood up and talked like that and laid all the blame at the feet of that person down in Florida.
Amen. Yeah, I heard part of it and I was really impressed.
It's very impressive.
Okay, Dem good time. Lee? Hello, Lee. Oh, well, I know Katie updated that date. Please, Katie.
Hold on, pulling up my calendar right now. I have it as the 26th.
Okay.
That'd be the fourth Wednesday, right?
Yeah, I've forgotten that that's what we had changed it to, fourth Wednesday. Okay, well, folks, if there are no other announcements, requests. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Carrie. Do I have a second?
I second.
Okay, I heard from Verda. I saw Suzanne, but I'll take Verda.
Speech trumps fingers.
Ooh. Ooh.
Depends which fingers.
Oh, okay. All in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by same sign? Hearing no opposition, it's unanimous. We've adjourned the meeting. Thank you very much for y'all's time and participation efforts.
Good night, all.
Good night,
Thank
everybody.
you. Good
Thanks.
night.
Good night, Nancy.